When you think of Bangalore, you probably think of this. It's a beautiful place to live, until it rains. What was once an inconvenience has become a hazard. Roads disappear beneath floodwater. But here's what's weird. Because the city sits almost 900 meters above sea level, that is high in comparison with Chennai or Mumbai. So, why does it flood every year? Imagine a stack of buckets. Fill the first one, and once it overflows, the water spills into the next. Then the next. That's essentially how old Bengaluru worked. Its lakes weren't isolated bodies of water, they were part of a connected chain. So, if Bangalore was designed to handle rain, why does it flood today? It turns out, one lake tells that story better than anywhere else. Bellandur Lake.
Breaking inputs here coming in from Bengaluru. The polluted Bellandur lake once again is frothing and has caught fire. Is a thick smoke
broke out at the Bellandur lake, triggering panic.
Well, in other news now, a massive fire has been raging at the Bellandur lake again. You can imagine how big it was by the fact that...
But here's the thing. Bellandur didn't catch fire overnight. The foaming and fire was just the most visible symptom. In reality, it was the result of decades of neglect. The old newspaper archives tell us a story. They show that this wasn't a sudden crisis. It had been building for decades. And the earliest warning I found goes all the way back to 1997. The problem was constant. Until 2015, public concern grew.
For the betterment of the society in those areas, that area.
The issue reached the National Green Tribunal, India's environmental court. The tribunal pulled multiple government agencies into the spotlight and imposed environmental penalties. But to understand the real problem, we have to zoom in. Because Bellandur isn't where the story begins. Before the water reaches Bellandur, it travels through a network of lakes, connected by channels called the rajakaluves. Think of them as Bengaluru's original drainage network. Every time it rained, they quietly carried water from one lake to the next, and eventually out of the city. Rajakaluves are basically Bengaluru's natural plumbing. These rajakaluves date back centuries, first developed under the Western Ganga rulers, and later expanded by Kempegowda as Bengaluru grew. Rajakaluves explain why the city was designed to handle rain. They also explain why flooding became worse. But they don't explain everything, because Bellandur wasn't brought down by just one failure. It was the result of many, all happening at the same time. After the public concerns and media attention, the tribunal didn't stop at issuing directions. It backed them with consequences. The Karnataka government was directed to create a 500 crore escrow account dedicated exclusively to restoring Bellandur and Varthur lakes. On top of that, the tribunal imposed 75 crore in environmental compensation for failing to comply with its earlier orders, and said that the restoration could no longer be delayed. The next challenge for the Karnataka government was figuring out where to begin. The Indian Institute of Science was asked to study Bellandur and its entire watershed. The Indian Institute of Science didn't just study the lake. It studied everything connected to it. And what they discovered changed the way Bellandur was understood. This wasn't a polluted lake that needed cleaning. It was a broken ecosystem that needed restoring. So their recommendation wasn't a cleanup plan. It was a rejuvenation plan. Bellandur was never designed to receive sewage. It was designed to collect rainwater. Every day, hundreds of millions of liters of sewage entered the lake. Some of it treated, much of it not. Over time, Bellandur became a holding tank for the city's wastewater. The foam, the foul smell, and the fires all began here. For years, Bengaluru simply produced more sewage than it could treat. That gap meant enormous quantities of wastewater continued flowing into Bellandur despite existing infrastructure. Over the last several years, the Bengaluru Sewage Board expanded treatment capacity by upgrading existing sewage treatment plants and constructing new ones across the Bellandur watershed. The idea was simple: treat the sewage before it ever reached the lake. But building treatment plants alone wasn't enough. Much of the sewage was already flowing through stormwater drains, so engineers built interceptor drains. Think of them as a bypass. Instead of allowing sewage to enter Bellandur, these drains capture it and divert it directly to a treatment plant. Large engineering works like creating the diversion channels and expanded treatment capacity have reduced some direct sewage inflows and helped curb visible problems such as persistent frothing in many areas. But the system still isn't perfect. Another part of Bengaluru's water system that often gets overlooked is the wetlands. These weren't empty pieces of land waiting to be developed. They were nature's flood buffers. During heavy rains, wetlands absorbed excess water, filtered pollutants, and released water slowly into the lakes. Removing the wetlands means the city loses one of its most effective natural defenses against flooding. Water has one simple rule: it always finds the easiest path. For centuries, that path was through the rajakaluves. But as Bengaluru expanded, many of these channels were encroached upon, narrowed, or built over. The water didn't stop flowing. It simply couldn't follow the route it was designed to take. And when rain had nowhere else to go, it found its way onto the streets. Over the years, rajakaluves had become narrower, blocked, and in many places, completely encroached upon. The Karnataka government began one of the largest encroachment clearance drives in the city's history. Hundreds of structures built within rajakaluves and lake buffer zones were identified. Many were demolished.
Today is the day 5 of anti-encroachment drive in Bengaluru. We are here in Pinya Dasaralli where the demolition is going on. Now the confusing part over here is that the residents over here got only a 3-day verbal notice.
Others remain tied up in legal disputes. It's a difficult balance. Restoring Bengaluru's waterways often means reclaiming land that people have lived on for years.
ಸರ್ವೆಗೆ ಹಾಕಿ ಸರ್ವೆ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಸ್ಕೆಚ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ನಮಗೆ. ನೀವು ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಕಟ್ಕೊಬೋದು, ರಾಜಕಾಲುವೆ ವ್ಯಾಪ್ತಿ ಬರಲ್ಲ, ನೀವು ಕಟ್ಕೋಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಾನು 1522 ಅಡಿ ನನ್ನ ಪೇಪರಾಗಿ ನನ್ನ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಫೀಟ್ ಇರೋದು. ನಾನು ಅದ್ರಾಗ ಅರ್ಧ ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಕಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಒಂದು 5-6 ಅಡಿ ನಾನು ಜಾಗನೂ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕಾಂಪೌಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಮತ್ತು ಇವಾಗ BBMP ಅವರು ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನು ತೆರವು ಮಾಡಿ ಕಾಂಪೌಂಡ್ನ ನಾವೇನು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಬಿಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಟಚ್ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರು.
Bellandur's story isn't just about a polluted lake. It's about what happens when a city slowly forgets the systems that once made it work. Today, restoration is finally underway. The lake is slowly beginning to recover. But Bellandur reminds us of something much bigger. It's far easier to preserve a system than to rebuild one after it's broken. There is hope. Jakaru Lake stands as proof that restoration is possible when governments, experts, and local communities work towards a common goal.
The committee has submitted a report about 8 months back. I would say it is because of the governance, the kind of procedure involved is the delay for the